They told me not to smoke drugs, but I wouldn't listen. Never thought I'd get caught and wind up in prison. Chalk it up to youth, but young age I ain't dissing. I guess I just had to get it out of my system, out of my system.
All right, welcome to Uncarcerated, the Represent Justice edition. We're in Atlanta with my fellow Represent Justice ambassadors, and I'm lucky. I just got a knock on my door. I thought I was done for the night, and my fellow ambassadors are like slowly trickling in. My heart is so full. One of the coolest, most accomplished people I've ever worked with is joining us, Starling.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. You are one of the people that I really look up to because I'm always looking to challenge myself to do more and to, you know, take on another project and put myself out there and make myself uncomfortable. And you always seem like you have a lot of different things going on. Can you talk about like where that motivation comes from?
Honestly, I think it started as a trauma response, to be real.
Yeah.
You know, I come from a decent family, but my mom has, you know, deals with a lot of mental illness. My dad kind of wasn't around for my childhood. And so like, I felt like I had to overdo and, you know, make up. I helped raise my baby brothers. So I think it just stemmed from that. And when I was growing up, I realized that if I wanted this life that I was envisioning in my mind, I had to go out and do it for myself. And so once I figured out what my purpose was and really got into that as far as like storytelling and writing, I just went full force. And then, you know, even when I was incarcerated, I was the same way.
Relatable.
Yeah. I did.
Yeah.
You know, like they make you work. I had my job and then I was always in the library. I was always writing. I was always, you know, if I didn't have, honestly lucky at the last prison I was at, they had computers. So like, you know, I was handwriting everything. So like when I came out of prison, I had stuff just waiting. Like I honestly don't even have to come up with any more concepts because I have enough probably for the rest of my lifetime.
Yeah. Did you get the experience of being incarcerated and having a lot going on, like keeping yourself busy, having passion projects, creative projects? Yeah, maybe it was born out of trauma, but it came out of somewhere. Did you have any pushback to that? Because I was the same way, and I definitely had people I connected to, but I definitely heard, oh, this is bullshit. You know, you're going to get out and do the same thing. I heard that as well.
I don't think I didn't hear that. I think while I was incarcerated, like the people that were there, I would say the women, they would look at me like I was crazy, you know, because I would be like talking about movie scenes. And I had a group of women who I was close to. And so like I would try to get them to write their stories and tell their stories. And I did workshops and creative writing classes and all of that stuff. I'm actually very blessed that I had a really supportive family. So like one of my brothers, I recorded a poem and I sent it to him. And then he was like, I wrote a poem. And I sent it to him, you know, via the email system that we had, and he wrote a song. And so I actually recorded that poem on the song from prison. And so I think my family has always believed in me in that way. And so I don't think they thought that I was going to like go back down that road. I think it was like, okay, well, let's support her and see what she's going to do because we know she's going to turn this into something more than what she's, you know, been through.
And you have. Can you talk a little bit about your journey home and some of the like high points, some of the things you've worked on, and like what have been some barriers for you?
So my story is a little different. I actually beat the feds. I say I'm a 2%er, right? Because 98% conviction rate in federal cases, and I lost.
Knew we were going to get exclusive guests on this show. I fucking knew it.
Right. I'm a rare occurrence. Yeah. So I had to do 2 years. Obviously I lost that trial. And then, I was so grateful. I had an amazing public defender, which is something you rarely ever hear. And he stayed, even though we lost that trial, he stayed on my case for appeal. He was a better appeal lawyer than he was a trial lawyer. And we won. I did 2 years and then I was immediately released. But the government didn't want to let go that easy. And so they had 6 months to decide if they wanted to retry the case. But, they said you have to come back with all new evidence and all of these things. So when I got out, they put me back on pretrial. So while I was immediately released, they had to my dad drove in the middle of the night to come pick me up. They had to get me off the compound by 12 o'clock, off the count. And then I get out and I had to go to my dad's because his address was the address that was on file. And, they're like, you can't really do much. You're still on pretrial until the government decides. I had to report. I had to do all of these things. So I think for me, it was a little bit different because most folks, they get out, they have this conviction. While I did still have the conviction, I knew that it was going to be overturned. I knew the government was going to try to waste more money on me. They were just trying to see what they could do.
How long did you end up having to fight that for? What was the process like there? I mean, how long did that take?
It was about 6 months. So I got out in April. I had to go report into the federal courthouse and then, do all the things. They had me do a virtual court hearing. And then the government had 6 months, and then they came back and said, we're not going to retry her, and all 11 counts are going to be dismissed.
Applause.
Right.
Can you talk about some of the stuff that you've worked on since you've been home?
So there was a script. Obviously, when I first got out, I went and got regular jobs, right? I was working at DD's. I don't know if they have those where you're from, Ross kind of stores, just anything to really start just putting money in my pocket. I was working at the airport, pushing folks on wheelchairs, just anything that I could do to work. But there was a film that I had written while I was incarcerated called Harvest. It was a short film. I was inspired by this documentary that I had seen while I was locked up. And I, submitted it to a film festival and I won Best Screenplay. And so winning that I was able to get a producer. And mind you, during this time, I'm trying to get back into the community. I'm going to film events. I'm doing beginner film workshops, even though I'd worked on huge sets and all of these things before I was incarcerated. I was just trying to build community and ended up shooting one of those quick 48-hour films. And that's how I met my producer at the time who helped me fund my short film Harvest, which then went on to a great festival run. It screened at maybe 7 to 10 festivals over a span of a year and a half. And that film is what led me to meeting. He's my co-director on my feature documentary, Black Butterflies. He was the showrunner, creator of a show called Washed, which was going into its season 2 in Dallas. It was all Dallas actors, crew, everybody was from Dallas. So, it was really big for the city. And I submitted that script and I got a job as the lead writer on season 2, not season 1, but season 2 of Washed. And I think it's on Tubi now. It wasn't on Amazon, but I think it's on Tubi now. And then from that, I had been working on my feature documentary, Black Butterflies, since before I was incarcerated. I actually started documenting my journey of pre-trial, of talking to the lawyers, literally everything that I was going through, because I was the world just has to know about this. I can't be the only person that this is happening to. And that was cut short because after I lost my trial, everybody else on my case got to turn themselves in. So I thought I was going to get, if I was going to go to prison, I get to turn myself in. And that's not what happened. They remanded me immediately and I was snatched from my life. And so while I was incarcerated, I just, it's a community. I have sisters. I built sisterhood, and I would hear these stories, and I'm like, yo, this is bigger than me. This is what they are doing to women across the country. And one of the women, she didn't speak English, and she was signing a deal that she thought she was getting 7 years, and she got 17 years.
Yeah.
I heard so many stories in transit. I was in 5 or 6 different facilities, and you meet all these different women and you hear their stories, and it's this is just crazy. So I knew once I got out that I wanted to do this documentary, and I didn't know if there's 4 of us, myself and 3 other women, and 2 of the women I was incarcerated with, I didn't know if they would agree to do the film, and they did. So I started submitting for grants, and I'm still filming in production. It's a weird space. I'm in production and post-production.
Yeah.
And also in post-production of Born Captive. So it's just,
yeah,
it's a lot. And then I still have to work, and I still got to take care of my kids. But I know I do take moments now. I don't think I used to do this because I was just so go. I do take those moments now where I'm just okay, even if it's just for a few hours, breathe. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Oh,
they
so you
can't-
still are breathing and sleeping and eating? Are you sure?
Sometimes,
Okay,
yeah. It depends.
So, can you talk about getting the fellowship with Represent Justice and what that meant to you? Was it just like another thing to do, or were you like, this is gonna platform me in this different way? Like, what was that experience like since you already have these other experiences?
Yeah, no, I was stalking Represent Justice since 2020. So I work right now for an organization, one of the organizations I work with, the Ladies of Hope Ministries. Their founder and CEO, she was actually in the very first inaugural cohort, Dr. Topeka K. Sam. And that's how I learned about the organization. I saw them on social media. I saw some of the campaigns they were doing. They weren't doing films at the time, but I was like, "Oh, they look really cool. Like they're doing this, you know." And so I just started following their journey, their growth journey, because I knew they were a pretty new organization. And so when I saw that they were doing films, I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." So I did a little research, and I was like, how do I get involved? And somebody commented on a social media post, like, you have to be, your name has to be given to them. You can't just apply. So,
it's like the Pope. They basically pick us the same way the Pope is. There's like smoke, there's ash, there's a whole thing. Yeah.
Right. So and I also know Marcy Marie, who was in last year's cohort. I actually helped with her script on her film. And so when they were opening up, she told me they were opening up, submissions. And so I just was waiting patiently for my turn. And I actually had applied to a job with them, and they didn't even give me an interview, but whatever. And so I was like,
not bitter.
No, I wasn't bitter. Honestly, I wasn't bitter about not getting the job. I was bitter about not getting an interview.
Yeah.
It is what it is when you're looking for a job. But I was like, whatever, it'll come full circle. I was like, I know I'm going to see them somewhere. Like, I just know it. And I didn't know it was going to be the next week. And I remember seeing the CEO, Daniel, and COO, Jamie, at this event I was invited to by International Documentary Association. They had a convening for justice-impacted filmmakers in New York. And so I went, and I brought Dr. Sam, invited her. And so that's when I saw Daniel. And I introduced myself, and he's like, he's like, Starling, like, that's so familiar. Where do I know your name? And I'm like, yeah, you didn't give me a job.
Yes.
I was like, that's why you recognize my name. And he's like, it felt bad. I was being, funny.
Facetious, right?
Yeah, facetious. But I think that was enough for me to stand out. Like, now I'm memorable. Now you're not going to forget me when you see my name come across. So I think it's just all divine. I think it was all alignment and timing. It worked out, perfectly. And one of the things that they asked me in the interview process was, you're already a filmmaker. Do you feel that you will learn from being in this program? And I was like, I have only done like 2 short films, and I don't care what anybody says. No matter how many films you do, you're never going to know everything about filmmaking. Like,
or anything, really.
Or anything,
Yeah.
And I was like, I will absolutely learn. And just to be in community with other justice-impacted storytellers is something that I had never experienced before. And so, thankfully, I guess I answered right, because now I'm here. So
Yeah. Where was the decision did you know you were not going to use this experience to fully make Black Butterflies already? Or did you say, I'm going to do this other script?
Yeah. So Black Butterflies is a feature. So it's like a 90-minute, 110-minute feature. And I knew through this fellowship that it was short film, right? And that was something that I did kind of debate with myself. Like, do I take, this grant and like take a piece of Black Butterflies and make that into something like do I want to talk about the federal conspiracy, because that's what Black Butterflies is exposing, the conspiracy and how they entrap women and all of those things. And I was like, I saw Coco's film, I think, revolves around that. And I saw her film, so that was something I was like, what do I want to do? Like, what do I want to do? So I just prayed on it, and I sat with it, and I was like, Black Butterflies is its own like thing that I'm doing, and it's already been in motion. I was like, let me see what I can do. And, reproductive justice is one of the things that I really have wanted to focus on. I've worked with justice impacted doulas, and we had like doula programs, and we, trained women to go into the prisons and be doulas for birthing women who are incarcerated. And I just was like, you know what, this is my opportunity to do a really powerful short film. I didn't want to do doc because I had already been working in doc, and I was like, doc is just a lot, the story changes and shifts, and the people who you're interviewing, it's a lot.
Yeah, you don't have control over some of it,
don't,
right?
And that's the whole thing. I've watched this since I got the grant to start filming with Black Butterflies in 2022. The story has changed. And even another short doc that with another justice impacted woman that was sex trafficked as a child. We shot that in 2023. The story has changed, and you're always trying to figure out, like, how does this end? Like, how do I end this film?
Yeah.
So I knew with narrative, I had my script. It might change a little bit based on what we have going on, but I know that this is what it is. These are going to be the days. I'm not going to have to do pickup shots. I'm not going to, you know what I mean? So that's why I decided to go with Born Captive and focus on the reproductive justice aspect.
Awesome. And it so needs to be talked about. And I can tell you, watching last year's films, the one that like hurt the most, that it was like too hard to watch, was the one that was about reproductive justice.
It was Marcy's film. Yeah, Whispers Beyond Bars.
Yeah. Can you talk about the film coming out on the 23rd, and like what do you expect to get out of this? What kind of impact do you want to make?
I expect to get a standing ovation.
Yep.
No, that would be amazing. I hope we all get standing ovations, but
you definitely will. I mean, when I heard that we're going through our list of like, okay, you got to have your shot list, and this person needs to do this, and Starling has choreographers, and I said, wait, I looked at my list and I was like, am I supposed to have choreographers? How is that possible?
Unless you had dance, I don't, but yeah, Born Captive was really, I looked at this film as, how do I make a film that is impactful and shows this rawness and just, unimaginable experience of birthing, not only incarcerated, but birthing your child in a jail cell.
Yeah.
And there was so many stories that I had researched, and women that this had happened to, because, my mom was incarcerated. She was probation violation, incarcerated for unpaid probation fees at 8 months pregnant. And so she didn't give birth in the prison cell per se. She went into labor. They did take her to the hospital, but she was handcuffed and chained. And so, as I was reading more and more of these stories.
That's a lot there. I mean, there's historical
that's what the
there.
film, that's where this film goes. So I took it and said, I don't want to just do a PSA that says, okay, look at this horrible thing that's happening, this crime against humanity. Let me do my research and see how this has started. And so that's the premise of the film. And it's also a horror, like the system is the invisible monster. And so that's how I went about the script. And I was like, what can I do to really show the historical truth without, having to do this long film? And so, my main character, Naomi, is based off my mom, goes to report for probation, can't afford to pay the past due fees. They incarcerate her. And so each time she goes into she's in labor, but each time she has a contraction, she's transported into a different time period where she sees her ancestors who are birthing in bondage. So we go back to slavery times, we go back to the civil rights movement, and then we go back to the 90s when there was the war on drugs and the crack epidemic, and Black women and girls and children were getting swept up into, these drug laws that were really just intentionally meant to completely tear the Black family apart. Yeah. And I was doing an interview for Black Butterflies. I got the opportunity to interview a former FBI agent, white guy, and he actually ended up going to prison for something. I don't know who he pissed off, but they sent him to prison. And so I asked him in that interview, why do entities like the DEA and the FBI, even IRS, go after Black women? What is the goal that you guys have with that as an institution? And he said, well, Black women are the pillars of their community, and if you cut the legs off of a table, it cannot stand.
Yep.
And I was just blown, like
Yeah.
I was blown away, you know, because I didn't know what he was going to get on camera and
It's
say.
like when the monster reveals itself in a movie. And
Right.
and you know, the fact that you picked a horror movie to represent this thing that is horrible, and also it is the silent horror in our community. My wife's like battling what's going on with ICE and immigration now, and I remember a couple weeks ago she was just like in tears about the runaway train that it's becoming, that these deportation centers are getting built. And what she was feeling was, if we don't stop this thing now, it's going to be what the prison system is to us now, which is you drive by it every day. It's a KFC, it's a CVS, it's a stoplight. You don't think about it, but these horrors are going on right next to
Right
us.
now,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I was I am grateful for Saladin, because I don't know how, but I ended up getting the amazing. Well, I do know how, but I ended up getting the amazing Naturi Naughton Lewis to star in my film. And for those of you who don't know, she played Tasha on Power. That's like the most known role she has. But I've been a huge Naturi Naughton fan since I was a kid, and she was in 3LW, and so I was just so grateful. Saladin had sent my script over to one of my producers named Kors. I had never met him, and he got the script, and he's like, you know, well, let me see what I can do. You know, you never know. And then he reached back out and was like, yeah, I think the script is really powerful. You know, I'm going to send it to a few folks. And her name was in that pot. And I was like, wow, that would be amazing. And honestly, Denise had reminded me that when we had our first training, she said that I said that out loud. I was like, oh yeah, I would love to get someone like Naturi Naughton to be in my film. And you know,
Yeah. You're manifesting stuff all the time. Yep.
Right. And
Yep.
I didn't even realize it. And so she was great. She's amazing. We're in post right now, so you know, we're working through the edit, but just working with her on set, I learned so much. Even, you know, she's been doing this for so long. What I really learned is like how to direct and work with actors, and how actors do lines and the way that they run them differently. So you have like different options that you can play with in post, and just how, she really, she brought it. Like, I knew she was going to do amazing. Being there and watching that, like, there was moments I forgot I was the director.
Yeah.
I had to be like, oh wait, cut. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and it was a lot, because just even when I'm watching back now in the cut, like seeing a woman in those jail uniforms, in that jail cell, in labor, is something that I'm hoping that is going to make people uncomfortable enough to care.
Thank you so much for doing this. I think you and Todd picked two of the most difficult things to talk about, and I think the best art comes when you are uncomfortable. You know, the music that I love is not polished. It's not refined. The art that I love was like, you know, people's first film when there's mistakes. Right. I think the best stuff has that element of rawness and makes people uncomfortable. So I'm super excited about this coming out. Just a couple of quick questions. Where can people find your work now out there in the universe?
So you can follow me on Instagram at The Real Starling. You can also go to my website, starlingthomas.com. And I just launched my Substack called The Fire They Couldn't Kill. And I'm going to be putting out essays monthly, poetry, talking about, you know, behind the camera as a justice impacted woman, navigating being a director and a writer. It's, you know, where I get to put my voice, and I don't have anybody else telling me how my voice needs to sound. And it's Starling Thomas on Substack, so subscribe.
Awesome. And then lastly, what's something that you are reading, watching, listening to? What is some art that you love right now?
Oh gosh, I love all kinds of art. Just so you know, Born Captive is not just a film, it's also going to be an immersive art exhibition. My first exhibition will be next month in Houston at the Anderson Center for the Arts, and so it's immersive. I'm taking aspects of the film but making it art. So, you're going to walk into a space that's called the womb room and see an experimental film. And I did portraits of my mom and my brother who was born in prison and other women who gave birth while incarcerated. And you get to hear, you can like put your phone up and like hear them actually telling their stories. And then I have a rocking chair that will play women who are currently incarcerated stories to their children when you walk. Super cool. So
my God.
I'm expanding my artistry, and it's been amazing working with other artists and like learning from them. But to your question, so the book that I'm reading right now, and that's why I brought it down here, it's called Killing the Black Body: Race, Reproduction, and the Meaning of Liberty. It's by Dorothy Roberts. Oh my gosh, like I got this book because I needed to start doing research on the history. It's taking me months to get through this book because there's so much trauma and so much just heinous crimes against humanity that has been done to Black women that it's like I cried from reading some of the stories in here from enslaved people. And like one of the things that really messed me up, and then I just have to close the book because then I got to go heal myself from reading this, is that, enslaved women would kill, it's femicide. They would kill their children so that they would not, their newborn babies, so that they would not be born into slavery. And so that's where I'm at right now, especially because my exhibition is going to have a timeline that starts from when we were enslaved all the way up until now. That shows you that mass incarceration and slavery are linked.
I've seen those graphs, and white America has not paid for its sins yet, and wealthy white America is still profiting off of these sins. And so we need art like yours to do some more damage and to create some open wounds before people can heal. So I appreciate you doing this. Thank you, Starling.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yep. Thank you.
That was easy.
Drugs, but I wouldn't listen. Never thought I'd get caught and wind up in prison. Chalk it up to youth, but young age I ain't dissing. I guess I just had to get it out of my system, out of my system, out of my system.